Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk,
And I'm your host, TJ Cornwell.
and I gotta be honest, I will never get over how much easier it is on StreamYard to just hit go
Oh
and
my God.
it works.
Way
Uh,
less technical difficulties here.
Absolutely. All right, today we are going to have a show of a certain amount of length. We are going to have a couple of quick topics to go over, just kind of some quick rapid fire discussing film, like aggregator stories that have been bouncing around in this past week. Want to get TJ's thoughts on that as well as give you guys my own. And then we're going to be talking some Marvel. We're going to be talking amazing, or not amazing, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has been kicking along for the past 3 weeks. I think the finale airs tonight. I think right after we go off air, or maybe if it's even going to come out when we're live. But
Correction. It's already out.
it's already out. Did they put it out early?
I watched it earlier.
Oh, you
I,
watched the finale already?
yeah, I thought
I thought it was
I
Wednesday.
thought the same thing you did because I looked last night. Because I was
Yeah.
like, it's not Tuesday or Wednesday. So I looked at like 9:03, whatever, and I didn't see it. And I was like, oh, maybe it must be tomorrow. And then I looked earlier today, and it was up. So I was like, oh, it must come up last night, and maybe it just wasn't
Oh, what the hell?
uploaded yet. But it definitely said Wednesdays. I could have sworn the banner usually it was like
That's what I
Wednesdays at
thought.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
it's the old style. Maybe it's Wednesdays at like 3 a.m.
oh maybe. Yeah.
That's so stupid though. Why would they? I don't know why they started doing shows at 9 and then now some shows are still 3 a.m. That doesn't make any sense to me. Um put your shows out at the same time every week and then let your audience come to you. That's my take on it. But well, okay, then I stand corrected. I have not seen the finale then. TJ has. So is both episodes for the finale?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
real. So I will not be able to provide my take on the entire season as a whole, but the majority of the season. And then we are going to be closing out, obviously, of course, with talking Captain America: Brave New World, the latest 35th official entry into the MCU, produced by Marvel Studios. 35th movie, that is. It's like 46th overall or something. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it, TJ. And also, don't forget, we're going to be taking your calls along the way. Call in right above my head. You see where it says call in below. Right below me is going to be the video description. Go ahead in there and click that link. Make sure that your microphone is on and your camera is off. That way, when we pull you in the studio, we can just pull you right in on the audio call. And we will talk to you guys about anything, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm also going to go ahead and throw that link in the live chat for you guys. But first and foremost, TJ, we are going to actually start out with a little bit of MCU talk, and that is we are going to talk for a second about Daredevil Born Again. We got a couple new images this week, a couple new looks at the season, and we also got official confirmation that filming is completely now underway for season 2. And then also, I'll go ahead and throw in here. We also learned that Daredevil Born Again will have a 2-episode premiere, a 2-episode mid-season, and a 2-episode finale. So basically, it's going to be 9 episodes, but over the course of 7 weeks. So anything in the world of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, show's coming out in just a couple of weeks here, just 2 weeks actually, from today. What are your thoughts on all this? We're ramping up. Season 2's going, and we're about to hit the ground running.
Yeah, the 2-episode thing is interesting. I wonder if that's like a new thing they're going to start doing with a lot of their other shows. I mean, they did it with they've done it with Spider-Man, which granted that's an animated show, which I feel like you see that more of with the animated shows that
where it's like the batch
live
releasing.
action. Yeah. But I would say that gives it a little bit more, I guess, something to look forward to. You know, you don't have to wait another whole week for another episode. And maybe it's them also just trying to kind of consolidate a little bit, where it's like maybe we want like a little bit bigger of a gap between projects. So let's just cut out like 2 weeks if we can, and we'll just release, double every
Yeah.
so weeks.
Like,
You
let's
know, in
speed
the
it along
beginning
a
and
little
then
bit.
middle of the season or whatever.
Also,
it is.
Agatha had a 2-episode premiere and 2-episode finale.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's maybe kind of the strategy going forward, which I'm fine with. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of talk always about like the whole, Netflix Stranger Things, release it all at once or, go week by week. I think this is like a nice kind of middle ground, I feel like, whereas like we've talked about it with Stranger Things, it's like, oh, we'll talk about it for a few days, then it's like, yeah, over. We're done. It's a conversation. Whereas if it's like an ongoing, week to week series or season, people are going to keep the conversation going week after week because, there's something to look forward to. It's going to be left on a cliffhanger. We don't know what's going to happen. So I think this is a nice little sweet spot for like that kind of release schedule.
Yeah, I think I agree. I was glad that I remembered Agatha, that they did that, because I really like that with Agatha. And I think with a show like this, if you have a super punchy, 1-2 punch of an episode, or even just think about how many times, well, how often you hear over and over again, the episodes are too short. The episodes are too short. But more than just the episodes are too short, think about how many times people come out of the shows going, oh, episode 4 and 5. If episode 4 and 5 was just combined, that would have been such a perfect hour of TV. I think that's maybe what they're starting to catch on to is, you said, 5 and 6 really play together, then go.
Oh, did we lose him? Might have lost him for good. Oh,
hello?
Gotcha. Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh, what? Oh,
You're
here
frozen.
we go.
You're frozen for a good few seconds there.
Oh, how's the stream at? Hopefully the stream is still up. Well, let us know if the stream is still up. But all I was saying was,
yeah, it's still up.
Okay, all I was saying was, this is me speculating, but I hope that it is like script driven, like that it's not just like, oh, these 2 random episodes we're dropping at once. I hope it's like, no, this is like a 2-parter. You know what I mean? I hope it's more that. And again, I was just making the point that it gives me faith with what happened with Agatha, that those first 2 episodes that came out together were really good together. And then the last 2 episodes that came out were really good together as well. So, whatever they have to do, obviously, I think it probably has to do, like you said, with this whole 6-episode thing is like, they want to keep these shows. If you notice, all streaming services, they don't like shows running more than like 2 months. You know what I mean? It's like the most you will get is maybe like a 10-episode season. And the last 10-episode season I can even think of was House of the Dragon season 1. I don't even know of anything that was 10 episodes. They're all shorter than 10 episodes. My point.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. They want to keep these shows big, a cultural moment, but also I think they want to get through them so that, like you said, they can get on to some other things, and not just be like, a slow drip, but more of a really make an impact. But like you said with Stranger Things, strike that balance where you don't drop all of Daredevil at once, but you also don't maybe you do it a little quicker than week to week, so you can go, whoa, we got that 2-hour movie to start, a couple of 1-hour episodes, then another big like Daredevil event thing, then a couple more episodes, then another big like 2-hour Daredevil thing. And another thing that I didn't save up in the tweets here, but they confirmed that episode 1 is going to be 58 minutes and episode 2 is going to be 48 minutes. So I mean, it's coming, man. If the run times are out there, that means that the screeners are not far off behind for reviewers to start taking a look at everything. So I'm really, really excited. And obviously, it goes without saying that we will be covering that show every week here. Super excited for that. Another show that I'm really excited for to be officially coming back. Well, it was always officially coming back, but a really, really good development with it. That I actually can't remember if you've seen this or what your relationship is with
I've
this
not.
show. Yeah. Okay. And that is, of course, a show that I've talked about many times on here and a franchise that I love. which is the Apple show Monarch Legacy of Monsters, has officially wrapped season 2. Now I knew that a while ago they had confirmed a couple of cast and a couple of new cast members for this season, but I couldn't remember. I was like, but who of the original cast is coming back? And I was so happy I looked up. They're all coming back. It's like,
okay.
I was like, is why? Because the way I'll just say this, it's a time travel thing where they play the same character, or not time travel. What am I saying? There's just parts of the show are set in 2 different times. I don't know why I said time travel. Where Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell are playing the younger and older version of the same character. The way the first season ended, you could see where they could write that character out of the show. But at least as far as IMDb is concerned, they're both back. So that was really, really exciting for me. Obviously, Anna Sawai did this show, and then right after Monarch ended, basically Shogun started, and then obviously Anna Sawai went on to win a ton of awards and a ton of praise and stuff for her work in Shogun. And she is coming back for this as well. So really, really excited. I know TJ said that he hasn't watched the show, but just one of the best Apple shows. Another show that is just like, man, the quality of the VFX, the cinematography, just the overall look and like costuming and feel of the show, just feels like something so expensive. I don't even understand how it's TV, and that probably is. And all likelihood, with how streaming is collapsing it on itself, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe season 2 is the last season of the show. But I'm happy that we at least got 2 seasons to kind of flesh out this kind of angle of this franchise that I really, really like. I think the Apple show has been a great development in that.
Yeah, I might re-up to Apple. I don't know. I think the Apple marketing machine. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, the Apple marketing machine is getting to me where I feel like I have to watch Severance. So I think I might re-up at some point, and maybe I'll check this show out as well. I know they have like everybody. I feel like everybody always says that Apple has like some really good shows.
Yeah,
and I feel like it goes like just unnoticed most of the time. I know Silo was a big hit as well. So, you know, maybe I will check it out when I re-up eventually. I like to not watch a bunch of shows at the same time. So I'd have to knock out like, you know, Invincible's out now too. I haven't even watched a single episode of that for this.
Neither have I. I can't even believe it.
And I'm in the middle of the West Wing still. So I, you know, I got to knock out one of them before I can go on to something else.
Mutual friend of the show, Alex Frank, said, hang on, sorry, I gotta pull up your thing. Yeah, he said, did I see that TJ logged Badlands last night? And I didn't even know that you didn't. I didn't look it up, and I just went West Wing.
Oh,
man.
Badlands.
Yeah, I was like,
I just
watching the West Wing.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Martin Sheen."
I got the Martin Sheen bug.
I know. Before I didn't even look it up to say that. He just went. I see that he logged Badlands, and I just went West Wing, man. Yeah. It'll change somebody.
Oh yeah.
Bartlett for president. Oh, you know what? Real quick here, we're gonna get to it later on. But does after seeing Captain America, does that put Ross anywhere on your level of fictional presidents?
No, not even close.
All right. Well, speaking of fictional leaders, let's talk a little Lisan Al-Gaib real quick. And that is that, according to one Timothée Chalamet, he believes, at least he is under the impression, that Dune Messiah will start filming in June. So obviously Denis has been very vocal about this was not going to be his next project, but then just the overwhelming support and obviously box office of Dune Part 2 made this be, you know, kind of front burner for him. It looks like we are like filming this like within a few months. So what are your thoughts on this? And the all important question between this, Euphoria, Spider-Man, Odyssey, and Challengers 2, maybe? How is Zendaya going to have time to Challengers exist 2 this year? How is that possible? How is Zendaya going to be everywhere at once?
I don't know. As far as Dune Messiah goes, I'm excited. I saw some. I forgot what the joke was exactly. I saw a joke related to like Dune Messiah coming out before Batman Part 2, or like it was like Dune Messiah in like another movie that has been like a really big production that are both probably going to come out before Batman Part 2 even like start shooting or something, something ridiculous.
Can I ask this question?
Yeah.
Was the entire Dune trilogy produced in between the Batman movies?
Yeah. When did Part 1 come out?
I mean, I get that part 1 was 21.
Okay.
And the Batman was Oh, dude, yeah, the Batman came out 5 months after Dune Part 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Jeez.
so they basically that I thought it was like a year before maybe.
Yeah.
And that's only because it was delayed. Remember, they were supposed to come out right on top of each other because Batman's original release date was Halloween 2021.
Yeah.
And Dune's original release date was Thanksgiving 2021. So, wow, that's crazy. We're going to get an entire Dune trilogy, an entire successfully made Dune trilogy in between two Batman movies. That's kind of crazy to me.
So I'm glad that's that's starting really soon. I was kind of worried when that initially was like, I think Denis Villeneuve said he wanted to take a break and wanted to do something else before he saw him. But I'm glad he kind of reversed course on that, or they kind of made him do it, and they're like, no, you're going to do this. So I'm glad to see that. I'm interested to see where it goes after. I haven't read past Messiah. I probably won't. I know it gets weird. So we'll see. I think people have been like speculating Gareth Edwards maybe.
I was just gonna say, did you hear that? What are your take on that? That this basically the rumor is it's a very loose rumor. It's like a guy that I don't trust said, I heard it from a very good place, which I don't trust at all. But it's going around, which is Gareth Edwards is possibly meeting with Warner Brothers to kind of fast track a Children of Dune movie to come out very soon after Dune Part 3. That's kind of the rumor going on.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting. Obviously we both like Creator, but it had its issues. We'll see how Jurassic World goes. Yep, that poster right there. We'll see how Jurassic World, right? What's the title?
Yeah, Rebirth.
Rebirth. Okay. See
but
how
it is
that
Jurassic
goes.
World,
even though he was just kind of shooting the movie, he didn't really, other than that, there wasn't much to it. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'm assuming I think they renewed the show for another season as well. So
yeah.
And obviously those timelines are vastly different. I think it was like 10,000 years or something before.
And then Children of Dune is what? Like it's like 100 years later, right?
It's a jump. I don't know what the,
because I know the old sci-fi series, like James McAvoy is in the Children of Dune part.
Yeah.
But I can't remember how far ahead that is. But yeah. I mean, super exciting that Dune is seemingly going underway. I know it's been huge in various circles. It's been a very big worry on a lot of people of Greg Fraser's time. Of can he film both of these movies? Can like the Batman 2 and because obviously he filmed Batman 1 and he also filmed Dune 1 and 2. I think if Timothée Chalamet is to be believed, and this is filming in June, and then if Robert Pattinson is to be believed, and the Batman shoots this winter, then I don't see a reason why Greg Fraser couldn't fit both projects in. So I mean, obviously Dune is going to be a long shoot. That's like obvious, but is it going to be like 8 months long? I think he could conceivably half a year apart. I think he could film both of these movies. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Greg Fraser and all of this. But like I said, the other guy talking about Greg Fraser's schedule out there is Robert Pattinson, who has a movie of his own hitting cinemas in just about 2 weeks. And that is, of course, the kind of long delayed Mickey 17. So TJ, basically what we're going to talk about here is boom. Pretty good sign, if you ask me. Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 is now at 86% on Rotten Tomatoes with 28 reviews. So yeah, long kind. I won't be as rude to say like sat on the shelf, but just long kind of shuffled around.
Yeah.
This is believe it or not, 6 years later. This is his first follow up to Parasite. this movie originally was supposed to come out in early 22, or sorry, early 23. And then it just kept getting moved and moved around. And then there was an article that came out that said specifically Zaslav was worried about the movie, but that
Mhm.
internally people were positive on it. And that it was just kind of like a movie to move around the chessboard for David Zaslav. That kind of seems to be the vibe. But the movie is officially coming out March 7th, sorry. And it's looking pretty good. So TJ, where does this kind of put your hype for Mickey 17? Where does this how does this make you feel about the prospects of Robert Pattinson, Bong Joon-ho, all that stuff?
I'd say I'm more excited right now at this point. I think the whole thought going into it was it wasn't going to be good. And I still don't think the trailer's that good. Honestly, it's just kind of weird.
I saw the third
accent
trailer
is-
that doesn't have the Dean Martin song.
yeah.
And I liked that one a lot. I liked the third trailer a lot. I just downloaded it and put it like in our lobby at my work today. And
Mhm.
it was the first time I ever watched it. Was on the big TV that we have in our lobby. And it did. I don't know. I liked the Dean Cain song in the earlier trailers, but the one without, I feel like this movie has just become so identified with that song. This trailer finally gave me like a different vibe. And I really
Mhm.
liked it. I think Naomi Aki looks really, really good in it too. And in the first two trailers, she's basically just relegated to like one line and then like laughing. But
Yeah.
she had a lot to do in this third trailer. So did Ruffalo. So I'm getting more and more hyped for this. The closer we
Yeah.
get.
And now it seems to be like consensus that it's good, which I
Mhm.
just again it was kind of surprising because it just kind of seemed like the way it was being moved and the trailer I didn't think it was a very good sign, at least the first trailer. But it's finally come out and it seems to be pretty good. So that's good news.
Absolutely. Yeah, really excited for that. Honestly, that was a movie that was starting to slip into the like, am I even gonna see it?
Yeah. Oh,
Category, or even see it in theaters, I should say.
right. Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
the
now
thing.
it's back on the IMAX menu, in my opinion. All right, something else that is definitely going to be on the IMAX menu, a long time from now, whenever it wraps up, is Christopher. And we were just talking about Zendaya, and now here she is again with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Officially started filming just over a week ago, but we now officially have released our first look at Matt Damon as Odysseus. In obviously full costume and everything like that for the movie. Let me do it. No, let's see. Hang on. I'm gonna try and make this picture big screen. But yeah, first look at Matt Damon. What are your initial thoughts here? There you go.
My thoughts are it looks great.
Didn't do the long hair.
Didn't do the
Everybody
long
was
hair.
like, "How is Matt Damon gonna have long hair in a movie? It's never happened before."
Doesn't
Doesn't
have
have
long
it.
hair.
Yeah.
Ridiculous cast. I mean, that's kind of what every Nolan movie is now. Like it's just like every star you can think of is going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Really excited for it. This is filming now, I'm assuming, right? Yeah, obviously.
Yep.
This is going to come out before Batman.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I don't know that the image doesn't really give me much, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't raise
Odyssey
my
is
excitement
July
level more than it already
26th.
is.
Yeah, it's July 2026 is the Odyssey. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I don't think it raises my excitement level at all, but it just kind of gives more clarity because I know there was some conflicting reports out there that maybe Tom Holland was going to play Odysseus,
Mhm.
and Matt Damon would be somebody else. So I like that they officially tweeted this out from the studio, from Universal's actual like accounts, and said Matt Damon is Odysseus, now filming the Odyssey, all that kind of thing. So we can officially say he is 100% playing Odysseus in this, and that Tom Holland is going to be playing his son, which is what a lot of people thought. But then there were some conflicting reports that maybe Tom Holland was actually Odysseus as like a younger Odysseus. But I'm really excited for this. I'm excited for. I don't know if it's like. I don't know. I don't know if I would say that Christopher Nolan is going out of his comfort zone, but just a little bit of a different genre, a little bit of a different lane than I think he's been in lately. So I'm really excited, and I'm excited for like another kind of sword and sandals epic to really blow us away. And I think that that's
Mhm.
exactly what Nolan intends to do, and I hope that he succeeds. But also, all of Nolan's movies are not completely infallible, so it's like I'm not just gonna go expecting another Oppenheimer every single time. So it's like maybe this will be closer to like a Dunkirk for me,
Yeah.
or maybe it'll be another Oppenheimer and it'll be amazing. Only time will tell. TJ, I want to get your thoughts on this. This is
Okay.
maybe the biggest news story that we're going to be talking about this evening. And part of me didn't even want to bring it up, but I just there was a voice
You're
inside
compelled
me that said,
to bring it
"Yeah,
up.
we have to talk about this." And this is Warner Brothers Discovery is looking at rebranding Max. I know they would never think of doing that. From using blue in their logo, it will likely be a combination of black and white. So there, as you can see here, the current logo, and then as you can see here, a clearly professional artist's rendering of what the new logo could look like. Do you have any thoughts
That was
on
a tough
this?
one.
Or yeah,
Uh, yeah, they're going back to what they used to do because that's what it used to be for HBO. It was just black and white.
boom.
So there you
I
go.
gotta say, I'm with you on this. I've been seeing a lot of people going, "Oh, you just got to keep messing with things." I saw this and I immediately went, "That looks right."
Isn't it just them aligning what they current? Because HBO is still a channel, and I'm
Yeah,
assuming it's still black and white. I mean, I haven't watched HBO the channel like probably
12
since Game of
years.
Thrones was coming out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that for me, it's probably just making things align. I guess
Yeah.
that's the only thing I could think of. I don't know why it would take so long though. Why would you didn't think of this like years ago
Yeah.
when you came
I
up with
I, I
Max?
do I do think that you know, we've had this show in particular, Planet Film Live, has had, I don't want to say beef the level of Kendrick and Drake, but we've released a couple of diss tracks on HBO Max over the years.
Mhm.
One, one, namely, we had a 90-minute episode called "Is HBO Max the Worst Streaming Service?" Which, spoiler alert, at the time it was. But I think it's safe to say that as much as we hate Zaslav, I think Max has proven to be a sticking name. I think everybody calls it Max. As much as everybody was in an uproar and I was like, what's the point? Why even bother
Mhm.
changing it and stuff? I do think that Max it's a quicker, cleaner name. You say it and people know what you're talking about. So for me, as somebody, like you just said, for somebody who I love HBO, I saw the black and white and I'm like, boom, that's exactly what it should be. I think on top of that too, you got Paramount Plus, you have Disney Plus, you have Max previously, right? A bunch of them are all Amazon Prime, even a bunch of them are all blue already. You know what I mean? And it's like
Mhm.
Apple is it's more like gray is Apple TV Plus. So really it's like the Criterion channel is the only other one that their aesthetic is black and white.
Right.
And I think that it would actually help Max to stand out. It's not just another blue streaming service. They can kind of own and operate the black and white color scheme. So as much of a joke and just kind of a funny like headline story as it was, I do think it's actually a good change in my opinion for somebody who watches Max like all the time.
Quick question just regarding streaming services that we just
Yeah.
brought up. This is a dumb question. Has anybody surpassed Apple TV Plus in terms of UI? I still think they still have the sleekest, like easiest to navigate
I gotta say,
UI that
and
I've
I
seen.
didn't have this streaming service for like, I mean, I didn't permanently have it month to month recurring for
Yeah.
maybe like a year up until like a couple months ago. I got to give it to that Netflix website. They got a pretty good UI.
I feel like
I'm like,
Netflix website doesn't count.
I was making a joke. The Netflix
Oh,
app, whatever.
okay.
But I just the way that it's like you hover over something and it's just like going. Like
Yeah.
Disney Plus is 5 years old. Is that
Mhm.
right? 2019. Sorry, Disney Plus is almost 6 years old. And every time you click it, You click it, then it takes you to the landing page of the movie. Then you got to hope that your continue watching is still in there. Then you hit play. Then it's a black screen. Then the bar goes across really fast at the bottom of the screen. Then it starts playing. That's literally like 15 seconds. Whereas Netflix is like, oh, before you even stop scrolling, the movie's already playing.
Right.
So I think for the ease, I gotta give it to Netflix, but I will say Apple is like right up there with it because Apple just flows. We were watching I was watching Shrinking, and Apple has their own version of the Amazon thing, the thing where it'll tell you who's in the scene, or it's called like What's on My Screen or something like that. And Apple has one of those now, and so I was pausing it. And I was just reading the bio for Jason Segel and the bio for Harrison Ford and all that stuff. So I really, really like Apple, and that's another one that I didn't have Apple for the longest time, but now I have it back. I'm trying to make my way through everything, but like you said, Invincible, Spider-Man right now, Invincible is starting up. We got Severance. It's just so many shows to get caught up on, all while trying to stay up to date with the Oscar stuff and now the big, huge movies that are coming out. So it's just so much to watch this year. It's kind of crazy. But all right, last story here, and then we're going to move on to Spider-Man, which is, speaking of big movies coming out, Captain America 4, Captain America Brave New World, reportedly needs in the ballpark of $425 million worldwide to break even. Currently sits at $192 million after its opening weekend. Now, I do want to kind of dedicate a little more time to this story because I just want to like take your temperature on like, because we haven't really talked about this, but I know we watch similar shows. I definitely watch an unhealthy amount and more than you do, and it invades my life of how many like new rock stars and stuff like that I just watch like religiously. Which, by the way, I snapped you the other day, but you see they brought Screen Junkies brought everybody back. They rehired people. That was very, very cool the other day. But where are you at with like, what is your impression of like how much this movie cost and like what it needs to make? Because like there's just so many, in my opinion, just wildly crazy, like incorrect narratives out there about this movie.
Yeah.
And like people that are, oh, it needs at least like $700 million to break even. Well, that's the budget of the movie that they released, but not the movie that they shot. So where are you at with this movie? Like, how do you feel about the $192 million opening weekend?
100, and that's worldwide, obviously.
That is worldwide, yeah.
Oh, we lost him again. Oh, there we go. Never mind. No, you're good. You're good. I think that is kind of indicative of where we're at with the MCU right now currently. Obviously we'll talk about the movie a little later. But I don't think it's gonna, I don't think it's gonna hit $1 billion. I think it'd be lucky maybe worldwide to hit maybe 5, I want to say. I feel like I could see it in like the 4 to 5 range, kind of. So maybe
just a little above like a Quantumania.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really surprise me. I think it's going to be a loss ultimately for them in terms of profit. And this is kind of unfortunate where we're at with these movies right now. I think I said last week, hopefully this is the turning point. And after, I mean, I don't want to give anything away for my thoughts, but, I think maybe next movie with the Thunderbolts and then Fantastic Four, I think that'll be their kind of refresher where they'll be like, okay, we had a tough run of, I would say still profitable movies for the most part, maybe not, the most profitable in the world, but in terms of quality, they were kind of lacking in that area. And I think this was kind of the last one of that group. I hope. I could be wrong. Thunderbolts could be bad.
The
I
last
feel like,
Chapek movie.
yeah, but people are, I feel like there's been, it's been circulating like the test screenings for Thunderbolts was good, so that's a positive. And everybody seems to feel good about Fantastic Four for the most part. Trailer was good. Same with Thunderbolts trailer. So I think this is the line in the sand. And then obviously we got Daredevil coming up as well as far as shows go. So I think this is the line in the sand. And then from here on, we're going to slowly build. And then we're going to get obviously to Avengers and all that other stuff.
That's the thing that's crazy, though, is that like slowly build. It's just those two movies. It's just Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. And then the next movie is Doomsday.
Well, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. We don't need. I keep saying it, and everybody, and multiple other people. It's not just me. It's not just me. Like multiple other people obviously say this. We don't need you don't need 8 projects in a year. We're fine with a show or 2 and a movie or 2 in a year, and it's fine if they're good. Great, if they're good, the money will come. We don't have to put out 6-7 projects in 1 year all smushed together and have the quality be lacking and it make money, where it's like, obviously the goal is to make money, but you also want to produce good content.
Yeah. Like, let's just take this year as an example. Like, I feel like, so this year we've already said a million things, but like you have, I just think there's things like Ironheart. There's things like Wonder Man, which I think Wonder Man's going to be good. Ironheart does scare me because Ironheart is still a Chapek era thing. This is the last like movie from that era. Ironheart is the last like show from that era. So right. I am because Ironheart was supposed to come out like 2.5 years ago. But like, let's just take this year as an example. I feel like if you had less, and I get the whole point, they got to get out the stuff that they have in the pipeline. You know what I mean? Like they have to clear this stuff out before you can get to the lower numbers. I feel like if this year you had the 3 movies, but maybe the Captain America team doesn't get in over their heads and that, doesn't affect production in the way that it did. The other 2 movies are great. Then you have maybe Daredevil in the spring, and then you have Wonder Man in the fall. And maybe, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and something like a special of the Marvel Zombies. You know what I mean? That to me is like the perfect health, like a perfect healthy year from the MCU. If you give me 2 fantastic TV shows on either end of the year, not 2 right up against each other, like we had with Moon Knight and with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I just think that, like you said, that's less is more. And I think, in the future, less is more. And I think that's what they're going to go with. And that's hopefully how it's going to be. But we got to get rid of some of these old vestiges of these old products and projects first. All right, TJ, I want to jump over now to talk about a little show that you have seen more of than I have. And that is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So TJ, tell me, when did you start watching this show? Because I know I just texted you a couple days ago, or on last week's episode of this. And I was like, this show has bumped up to getting my highest recommendation possible. At that point, had you seen any of the show, or did you just like binge all this stuff?
I would say I started watching it maybe a day or 2 later, I want to say, after it came out. And I think what did it premiere with? 2 episodes, right?
2 episodes, yeah. It was 2, then 3, then 3, then 2.
Yeah, so a few days after it released, I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I was always kind of a little late with each release, I would say, with each kind of release chunk. And then I think last weekend, because I thought it ended with 8 episodes, and I thought they left us on that really big cliffhanger. Not like a cliffhanger, but I just thought it was a big moment where they left us. I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to wait, And that's why I said to you, I was like, well, I hope this is a faster turnaround than it doesn't take like 2-3 years to
Yeah.
come out with the next season.
I'm also fairly certain that 2 is like done.
Yeah.
Like completely done.
I think I saw that too.
Yeah.
And then I found out obviously that these last 2 episodes come out this week. And so I binged like I would say the majority of it last weekend, and then obviously watched the finale today. And just overall,
were they like 30-minute episodes?
30 minutes.
The finale.
Yeah. Well, real quick, actually, something I've been wondering, and I just haven't Googled. This is a different Earth, right? Okay. I just want.
Yeah, it's like they were like, for all intents and purposes, and I want to get very into this because I think it's one of the absolute strongest aspects of the show. They're like, think of this as Earth 615.
Okay.
Like it is like the MCU, literally, like, if the Watcher is like shards of reality, this is like a 1 degree off. And it's just the MCU, but with the Sony characters. Like that, like for all intents and purposes, it is that. And you see all throughout the show, please take back over from me, but you see that all throughout the show, all the different timeline markers along Civil War of what's going on in this season.
Yeah. Just what I can say overall about the show, having just finished it today, I was actually blown away. I thought this was a really, really amazing show or season, or for what will be another 2 seasons after this. Just from the characters that they introduce you to, and I don't have the most a lot of the characters I don't have a lot of background knowledge on, so I'll do Google and be like, oh, who's this, blah blah blah. But they all each have their own kind of story threads that you're walked through the entire season. I thought all the acting was great. All the voice acting was great. What they did with Norman Osborn, his character, I thought was really cool. Kind of taking him and not really making him like a villain at first, where he's just kind of, mentoring
Irresponsible.
Peter
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
you're talking about
helping
episode
him
1.
out. Right. Yeah. And then same with like Lonnie and where he ends up and that whole storyline. And it's just interesting to see too, like, I feel like when I'm thinking of, Peter Parker and Spider-Man, it's like he's always hiding, his identity. But in this show, it's like after like 2 episodes, it's like
you're gonna help me out.
Know.
You're gonna help me out.
Yeah, it's not like so much of a secret anymore.
Yeah.
And how they kind of bring all the villains in, even though they don't have the biggest they might have the biggest storylines. Like I'd say Doc Ock kind of he's there, but he's only there for a few minutes for a few
they
episodes.
Might, or like Doc Ock or like Rhino, they might not even be the villains that they are yet.
Right, but they are setting up these kind of threads that they'll come back to later, and they do it organically. They don't really shove the villains in there.
Literally. It's crazy. It is crazy.
And I will say about the finale is I thought it wrapped up everything really well, and it
left the door
I would say
open.
the last like 2 minutes they do a big like kind of dump, I would say, where it's like, oh, here's all this other stuff that we'll come back to in a future season.
Oh shit.
That I think you will actually really like.
It's
I
you
would
hear
imagine
somebody,
the majority of people.
You hear somebody and he puts on the orange bat, or he takes off the orange goblin mask.
Oh,
and it's a nameplate, and he puts it back on the case, and it says Hobgoblin. And then Peter walks in, and it's the shot from the end of Homecoming.
Yeah.
When you see Spider-Man and Aunt May goes, "What the fuck?" and the head comes off, and it's Ned as the Hobgoblin, and he goes, "What the?"
So another thing I really liked was was him finding what suit works throughout the season. I feel like this was like a 3-episode arc type thing that happened, where we're just kind of working out on these suits and seeing what works, what doesn't. Norman kind of trying to get him to be something that he's not with these suits as well. The one I found, I thought the most like the funniest was the one that I think it had the wings, and it like scared the hell. Like he rescued like, I forget if it was a bull. He got like a balloon out of a tree, and he gave it to the girl, and she was like terrified of him. And I thought it was really funny. But yeah, really,
I like that Future Foundation suit too.
Yeah, really, really good season with some good cameos. Obviously, you see Daredevil up there as well. We get Doctor Strange, and then we get an Iron Man cameo. But
Yeah.
like I said, they all just kind of
Don't
mesh
forget
together.
about Thunderbolt Ross.
Right, Thunderbolt. Yeah, they all kind of mesh together, and I don't feel like anything was kind of like forced in that didn't need to be. And it makes me really excited for season 2. I hope they, continue all these threads and come back to them, and hopefully it lands on its feet. I don't know what the future is for this. That's what I'm wondering too. Like, I'm assuming this is going to connect in some way, shape, or form by the time we get to like a Secret Wars or something like that. So I'm very interested to see how that all works out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, because it's like it just is Tom Holland. So like, would it just be a second Tom Holland?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maybe by the end of this show, he gets a very distinctive suit.
I think
So
that's what tripped me up with the Earth thing, where I was like, okay, obviously this isn't Tom Holland voicing it, but I'm like, well, this is Benedict Cumberbatch, and that was Robert Downey Jr., or that wasn't?
No, that was not Robert Downey.
Okay. But then like they're talking about, I think at one point they mentioned like, oh, they were fighting on the Avengers were fighting on the tarmac of the airport. And I was
like,
like, oh, so it is in the universe, but I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because he was there. So I was like, oh, so maybe it must be like a slight variation of.
It's literally just, what if instead of Iron Man being on, what if instead of Iron Man being on Spider-Man's like trail, it was Norman Osborn? And so it's like, so he doesn't go to the airport with them to Germany. He doesn't go to this. I mean, even the charity benefit that they're at, where Norman sees Ross, is a charity event for what Wanda did in Lagos. She's like, after the horrific explosion caused by Wanda Maximoff and the Avengers' actions there. And then even in that scene with Ross and with Osborn, she goes, our incredible benefactors, Norman Osborn, and then the camera pans away, but the voiceover, you can still hear her, and she says, and please stand up, Eleanor Bishop of Bishop Security. Like it's fully the MCU. I think Vera Farmiga would have showed up if they needed her on camera. As Eleanor Bishop. I think it's, and they even referenced the Tracksuit Mafia like more than once this season too. I think it is, and Hawkeye and a bunch of other stuff.
One quick thing I'll say, and this is just about the animation. I like the animation style and how it looks. I do think that sometimes it almost plays like a cutscene in a video game, where it's like, okay, is it time for me to pick up the controller? Yeah, like kind of like that, where it just sometimes it looks a little wonky to me. I don't know why, but I really like the style. But sometimes I'm like, is this a game or is this a show? I think it's more them kind of walking at times together, like around the school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But still, overall, really like the animation.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think I see that. Because I know exactly what you're talking. It's the like.
Yeah.
It's like it's that. But honestly, dude, I echo season 2. I echo everything that you have said about the show, and I want to just take a second to do oh my god, I want to take a second to talk about all the characters in this show. Because you pretty much hit on every single other thing that I completely agree with. Oh, that's the wrong image. 1 second. There we go. You pretty much hit on every single thing that I wanted to talk about. So I just want to talk about some of these characters like Harry and Nico and Lonnie. I just think that like what this show did with some of these different characters, and the fact that at the beginning of the review you were talking about like, I don't know some of these characters as well as some of the other people. I think that's like entirely intentional. You know what I mean? because it is literally the MCU, I think it's like we are dealing with all these different characters in New York City because like Ned and MJ are at a different school. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he not even like, oh, in this universe, these are his friends at high school. It's in this universe, Ned and MJ would have been his friends in high school if what happened with Doctor Strange didn't happen. So it's like he literally goes to a different school and it changes his entire life. Is be like he meets all different people. Now his best friend is Nico instead of Ned. Now he's got this really good friendship with Lonnie. On the flip side, like what we've learned with some of the What If episodes and stuff, because these are based in the MCU, like I think it would make perfect sense. Like when he makes references to like Uncle Ben and stuff like that, like for all intents and purposes, he's giving us the true history of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like
Right.
I think Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the movies that we love had a babysitter named Pearl who he had a crush on. You know what I mean? Like I think that like we just don't see Pearl in the movies because he never ended up going to the same school as Pearl. So it's just somebody who kind of like fell out of his life. So I really like that way that it is really, and I've heard this in a million reviews, but it really is true that this show is kind of doing What If better than What If did, because it is really truly the inciting incident, the nexus event of this timeline is the Doctor Strange fight at Midtown High in the first episode. That is the moment where everything shifts and everything goes completely different than it was otherwise. And then it's just kind of the snowball effect from there.
Yeah.
Is just really, really interesting. And
I'll be interested to see what you think on how they kind of bring everything around. In the second to last episode, I think it is. Or no, the last episode, sorry.
Yeah.
And then also what they do with Lonnie's character, because I think it's different than what is traditionally done. And you would know better than me, obviously. So I'll be interested to get your thoughts and see if they're thinking of taking maybe that character in a different direction than usual.
Interesting. Well, that makes it.
That's what it seemed like, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what they've been doing with Lonnie so far. So I am very excited to kind of see how it all wraps up and everything. But at the same time, I don't know. I like the character of Tombstone, but I would like them to maybe do something different where maybe in this universe Tombstone doesn't end up going so bad as he did before in other mediums and in other stories and stuff. But yeah, I'll be very interested to see how it all wraps up and who shows up and what you're talking about that happens right at the end. I think it'll be really interesting to see. Real quick in the chat, Brandon said, or Michelle said, I could do without Ironheart when we were talking about the shows. And Brandon said, have we seen any iteration of the Hobgoblin since the original cartoon? I mean, other than, since the cartoon appearing in the comics on and off, and then, the reveal of it being, Ned Leeds in the comics and stuff. No, not really. I mean, there hasn't been any, Ned didn't like jump on Norman's glider in No Way Home or anything. But I think it could be interesting, to go there one day. Maybe they even do something different, and maybe they make it like when Miles is on his second movie, maybe Genki becomes Hobgoblin instead of Ned. So it's Miles' friend instead of Peter's friend. That could be interesting.
I wonder if they do that with the game.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because we kind of... Well, actually, never mind. I was going to say we kind of skipped over Green Goblin, but no, we just haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's that cartoon, that's my only touchstone to that character. It's the only time I've ever seen him, in anything.
Yeah. Real. All right. Well, another thing that was real is an MCU movie came out this week, the 35th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starring Mr. Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford, as well as a whole host of other people: Giancarlo Esposito, Shira Haas, Danny Ramirez, tons of other people in this as well. TJ, obviously, I'm talking about Captain America Brave New World. Captain America 4, Anthony Mackie's first official outing as Cap on the big screen. I'm just going to throw it over to you. Take all the time you want. Go non-spoiler, go spoiler, whatever you want to do. What were your thoughts overall on this movie?
Well, we saw last night, Danielle and I. And before I forget, I'd like to mention she counted 3 people sleeping during this movie. Snoring, I believe she said as well. I thought the movie was it was fine. It was maybe probably a little less than fine, in my opinion. One big doom per the Costco guys. It just wasn't fun. I thought Anthony Mackie obviously was great. I thought Harrison Ford was pretty good. His emotional scenes I thought were good, but other than that, I thought he was okay. Granted, I'm a big Harrison Ford fan, so he was talking to a wall. I would have been into it. I think where it really falls apart is the villains and kind of just where the story goes, kind of. Just specifically the villains. Obviously, Tim Blake Nelson coming back. I thought he was good, but it was just they just did nothing with the leader. They just had nothing for him to do. He wasn't even in the same room, I don't think, at any point of any character. Which was very, very noticeable, unfortunately. I didn't think the movie looked all that good. I thought the dialogue was pretty clunky most of the time. I wanted more.
I know you didn't come all this way just to blow up my truck.
Yeah, I wanted more Carl Lumbly. I thought that was the best part of the movie, when Anthony Mackie, Carl Lumbly, and Danny Ramirez, who was also good. I thought when they were going back and forth and the comedic, the comedy between the 3 of them, I thought they had great chemistry, and we really didn't get much of it, unfortunately. Giancarlo Esposito, I don't even know why he was in the movie. He didn't really add anything for me. I thought they could have just made it some generic kind of villain in his role. Obviously, I'm assuming they're going to do something with Sidewinder in the future, and this was, I guess, his character was one of those where it felt like they kind of they shoved him in there because it's like, yeah, we'll get to him another time, but we just want to establish him here. And it's like, well, if you're going to do that, like, let him do something, him. And that's where I go back to him and the leader, where it's like both the villains are just kind of meh. And then obviously they kind of marketed. I feel like the big marketing push for this movie was, oh, Red Hulk, he's here. We're going to see him. And he's there for 10 minutes. And don't get me wrong, I thought the fight scenes were really good. Obviously with Danny Ramirez and Anthony Mackie, I thought when they were flying around the Celestial with the ships and the jets and all that stuff, I thought that was all really cool. I thought the Red Hulk and Captain America fight was cool as well. But at the end of the day, you only got like 10 minutes of the Red Hulk, and I feel like that was kind of the main driving force for the marketing. And to speak on the post-credit scene, it was pretty blah, I thought. Didn't really, kind of told us stuff that we already knew. Where it's like, oh, watch out for everybody else. It's like, yeah, we know who's coming. It's been talked about to death, I feel like, for the past 2 years. I think I'm talking myself down on the movie, honestly. I just thought
he's doing a rare self Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. I just thought it just wasn't that good. And I really like Anthony Mackie and Cap as Captain America. Obviously, I think we both agree Falcon and Winter Soldier was fine. Again, it wasn't great. So I'm really waiting for him to kind of get that, that big kind of breakout,
that chance to spread his wings.
Okay, as you want to put it, yes, as Captain America, and it just hasn't happened yet, unfortunately. And I don't know, it was a movie where it was kind of like, we're just gonna set all this stuff up, I guess, and then to get to where we want to go. And obviously this is a Captain America movie, and when you compare it to the other three, it doesn't compare. Especially Civil War and Winter Soldier. It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't think it was very good, unfortunately. And like I said before, I think I'm hoping this is the line where it's like, okay, Captain, we're done with everything else. We're starting anew with Thunderbolts. Well, Daredevil technically, but movie-wise, Thunderbolts. And we're just going to keep building again slowly, but surely from there, we're going to get to the point where this all pays off. And I hope we get to that point. But right now, it's pretty doom. Doom and gloom, I'd say.
It's pretty doom. What the hell? Sorry, somebody just sent me something. It's doom and gloom. Your world is doomed. Nobody says that at any point in the movie. But maybe they should have. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I love this movie.
No, you didn't. I know you did.
No, I will say it's been a very complicated few days in my head about this movie. I think it's like, yeah. While I was watching it, I had the moment where I was like, yeah, this is just not coming together.
Yeah.
And so I will choose, because I agree with pretty much everything you said on the negative side. I'll throw it over to another thing I agree with you on. I thought some of the best parts of the movie, and probably what the movie should have been, but we can get into a lot more. I just feel like it's hard to talk about this movie without spoiling stuff, because it's like the movie is not that great, but it's like it's also like not very logical, but it's intricate. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, so I don't want to like say, it's just it's weird. It's like, there's so many details, but none of the details make any sense. So it's like, there's a lot of spoilers, but it's like, I would tell, like, if somebody was like, don't spoil it for me, I'd be like, man, even if I told you the spoilers, it doesn't matter. So it's like, once we get into spoilers, I feel like I can hit on these a little clearer, but, Harrison Ford, everything that he is doing on a emotional level, I thought was great. And I mean that in some of the melancholy scenes that he has, and some of the angry scenes that he has. I think even though obviously this movie was kind of patched together and you could tell different instances of, reshoots versus what was probably principal photography. I thought in particular the scene that you see in the trailer when it's the camera pointing up at him and he's got his hands on the wall looking down. That scene in particular, and how that scene continues, and we can talk about it in spoilers, but when he's grabbing onto that pipe and you just hear this person is just kind of filling Ross's head with all of his failures and all of this stuff. Now the logic in me would be like, just take the headset off. But there's also just like other things that I want to get into too, about like the headset and like a Microsoft Duo, and like calling the prime minister or the president of India on Zoom with a big Zoom logo in the corner.
Oh, I must have missed
when we know that this universe, people like hologram into each other.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Is this in the MCU or is this in the Fox universe? But anyways, we can get into that, and how, in my opinion, I think the worst problem, and I did like the movie. I liked the movie and I want to see the movie again. And I'll just jump right in here. I gave it 3.5. I gave it 3 out of 5. Sorry, 3 out of 5. I think this movie is completely choked by just a terrible, terrible plot and story. And because of that, like you said with the dialogue, I think the script suffers greatly from that, because there's dialogue that was written with different intentions than it's displayed. You know what I mean? That's what happens when you edit and chop up a movie like that, is you go, well, maybe that worked when Sam in this scene was talking about the Serpent Society, but now that he's saying these same words, but we're supposed to be thinking about it like Sidewinder, like one man as opposed to a group, like it just kind of doesn't make sense. Like the context doesn't make sense, and it feels like nobody came back in to make contextual things make sense in this movie. So it's
I think real
yeah,
quick, sorry. I think that kind of you summing up, it doesn't like it just not some of it just doesn't make sense. I think that's all brought together when Ross is talking to the Prime Minister of Japan, I think it was, and
yeah.
he's like, well, we gave you back the animanium or whatever. He's like, well, how do I know that you didn't take it and then give it back to us? And he's like, how could you think that? He's like, I don't know. How could you think this? And it's like, what?
I'm gonna
Like none
give
of it.
a line right now,
Yeah.
and I love Harrison Ford. I love him on Shrinking.
Yeah.
And I love him in this movie. I think he did a great job picking up from William Hurt. I also agree with you. I think maybe in this instance, he was not like playing it tense enough. You know what I mean? But also, I don't think that's him. I think that's the script.
Right.
But I think that's that scene you're talking about can be boiled down even more to just the worst line of the entire movie, which is, I was a fool. A fool for thinking I could believe any words coming out of your mouth. I'm going back to Air Force One. That's a real line in this movie. And it's rough, man. And that's Harrison Ford trying to sell that. But yeah, what was your star rating? Then we do have one caller, and I will let you know, caller, we have to keep it a little short because we're gonna go into full spoilers here.
I'll keep it at I'd probably say I'd probably give this like a 2.
2 out of 5, really?
Yeah.
So are you putting that you're putting that lower than the Marvels and like lower than Quantumania?
I mean, it's all kind of, I feel like it's all
in that same ballpark.
And I haven't said this too. I think I might start steering away from rating as well on Letterboxd, because I do get into that thing where it's like, well, this isn't better than that, but I gave this a that score, and that's where I get into the whole conundrum where it's like I don't really have like a
a set
an
scale
ambiguous
thing
where it's like that scale. But I give it around a 2.5. Not saying it's better or worse than those movies off the top of my head, because it's been a while since I've seen either of them. I've only watched them once.
Yeah.
I'd say it falls around in those categories, I would say, where it's bottom tiered MCU, doesn't hold a candle to, even though, Captain America First Avenger isn't the great, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's top tier MCU, but it's better than this. So I would say it doesn't hold a candle to the previous 3 Captain America movies. But I definitely put it obviously in that kind of bottom tiered section, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in good company with the movie that it's a sequel to, which is The Incredible Hulk. I think it's it's in that incredible. I won't even, because it's easy to pick on Quantumania and the Marvels. I put this movie down with Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Thor 2. It's like, it's just going back to and you're right. Doesn't hold a candle to oh my God, what am I saying? The original 3 Captain America movies, like you said. But there's some early phase 1 movies and phase 2 movies that I think are just as bad as this for different reasons. And, a lot of those movies don't have the kind of patchwork element that this movie has. They're lesser for different reasons. But I think it's just at a certain point, you have so much working against you from the script, which is just like I said, strangling every other element of production, to, from all reports, but I don't even care about reports, from the movie I saw, I think this director, Julius Ono, was just overwhelmed. And I think it goes to a thing, and this was in an interview, and I don't have any problem with this at all. Who picked Nia DaCosta for the Marvels? With Kevin Feige's permission, it was Brie Larson. Who picked Julius Ona for this? It was Anthony Mackie. This has been a trend where, and we've heard these stories, and caller, we are going to get to you, but I want to go into this before we go into full spoilers for anybody who, maybe hasn't seen it yet. But I think there's like this trend with Marvel that we've been hearing since Chloe Zhao with Eternals, which is like or really it was Kate Shortland with Black Widow was really kind of the first one that we heard this about, which was, oh no, you don't have to worry about the action. We do that. We handle that for you guys. You just worry about, the dialogue and stuff like that. You can direct those scenes. We got the action covered. I feel like they went to Julius Ona and they were like, you know what? Maybe we're just gonna take this because all the reports were that he was very in over his head on set with everything and just the scale of it. And at a certain point, and I only know this because I heard it come out of Anthony Mackie's voice himself. And I'm not trying to say that Anthony Mackie, failed this movie or something, but Anthony Mackie, I watched him tell the story, which was he got this opportunity. They said, you're going to have massive input. Obviously, he's a producer on this movie, as most of the, if your character is the name of the Marvel property you're in these days, you're a producer on it. Ever since Endgame, Jeremy Renner produced Hawkeye, Scarlett Johansson produced Black Widow and produced Thunderbolts. You get that producer credit. And he said in an interview, he was like, so I had a big hand in picking the director. And he was talking about Octavia Spencer, who even in this movie has a special thanks credit at the end of the movie. It says Octavia Spencer. That like, it was basically a conversation that the two of them had where she was like, you better get Julius in for this, you better give him that shot. And it's like, is a huge movie like this where you bring in like a personal favor to give a smaller director a shot on a movie like this? If it's like you're going from very small productions up to something like this, where that this Marvel machine moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I just think that Julius Ona, and I'm not saying this as anything against him. I think he's probably a fantastic director, but man, I feel like he was just thrown to the wolves on this movie. Plus, you consider this movie got hit by the Chapek-Iger drama. This movie got hit by the strikes. This movie, originally this movie should have come out years ago, if not for the pandemic. So in a way, it also got affected by the pandemic just because of how far along everything is. Just a lot going into this movie that is working against it. And I just think it completely, at every obstacle it faced, failed. Yeah. But I still liked it. So let's go ahead and take our call here from Shelly, who is on the line. Shelly, can you unmute yourself to let us know you're good? We're going to pull you in. And again, Shelly, we probably want to stick to like 3 or 4 minutes tops here because we want to get into some spoilers. And then I got to run off to the mechanic, not Jason Statham. All right, Shelly, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yep. Okay. Go for it.
I agree. I think I liked the movie, but like you said, it's in the category of some of those other films where there was issues, but I still liked it. But definitely it felt like they wanted to. I know there was a film recently that Sean and I saw, I can't remember what it was, where you just got the feeling they were trying to do too many things and didn't know what direction they wanted to go into. Because I get that it's Captain America's film, but the antagonist took forever to get there, and then nothing. You know what I mean? That was what killed me on it. It should have been way sooner. It should have been more involved. it was about like it was like a very big highlight of the trailers and stuff. And they pushed that, but didn't put Captain America behind it.
I didn't even know which antagonist you were talking about until you just said that.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to show you.
Yeah, I didn't want to spoil it completely, although I know everybody knows what it is. But it just was one of those things, too, where, you know, when you have the original Hulk, look at what the incident was and what it took for him to change. To me, this one, it wasn't believable for me, and it was kind of a letdown. There was no real excitement to...
Which part of it was not believable?
The pills.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you mean the literal steps of like how this even happened?
Yeah, I just felt like it needed to have more excitement to it, like what we're used to. And I also felt like they were trying to marry finishing up the original Hulk stories with all the Hulks we had and this new division of it all with Captain America and all that. So that I felt like they were trying to tie up one thing, see if the Captain America with Mackie was going to work. You know what I'm saying?
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just collided. They didn't mesh. And I felt that there were times that Captain America was pushed to the side for some of this other stuff, but it would be different if you know, the other things with Harrison Ford and all that stuff made more sense. And it just didn't. It was just like, you know, putting them together didn't make sense. And that's what they needed to do. They needed it to be a cohesive story with both of these sort of polar opposites of Marvel's storytelling. And then I also felt like Giancarlo was completely underused. That was that was very disappointing.
Stand by for confirmation of death.
No, but really, I just felt like that was
on a t-shirt.
It's almost like, why did we shove him in there at the last minute? He was like the last thing we heard about when they were making it, and almost like he was an afterthought, and that's exactly what it was. That's my opinion anyway. But
it would be like, you made me think, it would be like if Winter Soldier, if the Alexander Pierce character was instead Brian Cox as William Stryker from the X-Men movie. And they were like, Stryker's back and Cap's gotta take him down.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what? And granted, the Incredible Hulk is in the MCU, but you know what I mean? It'd be like if they went, you know, the villain in Iron Man 2 was, you know, Whistler from Blade.
Right. It's like, it'd be like, why? And it never explains it. So that's how I felt. Harrison Ford, I thought, really picked up the mantle of Ross very nicely and everything. I kind of expected this to sort of be some sort of precursor to Thunderbolts, but I didn't see that at all. You know, so I just, like I said, I liked it. It was fine. Was I sitting there going, oh my God, I hope they do another one, you know, standalone? No, I want Mackie to still be Captain America. That totally made sense how that all went down and him continuing and all that stuff. I love that. But he can be in all the other movies in that role, even as like a head of Avengers now. That's fine. But it's just, they don't need another standalone with this. You just can't compete with the other three. Like you guys said, there's just, you know, Chris Evans spoiled it by being perfect in that role and stuff. So you don't need any more standalones of that character. I think you just need to move on with him being who he is to the Avengers moving forward and let him have that like maybe leadership role and do it that way. I think this will prove that they aren't going to do it, but I don't blame Mackie at all. I don't. You know, other than the production, being a producer, but yeah. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you said. And I'm sure we'll discuss your thoughts more, but stick around. We're going to go into the spoiler discussion. All right.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So let us go. This is your warning. Boo, boo. Sidewinder's going to get you. We're going into spoilers here. All right, man. You're going to get a double kick to the chest on this one. 3, 2, 1. Spoiler edition. Go. What do you want to talk about? I think we should bring up Danielle's chat first here.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Jump right to the end. Jump right. Because we're jump to the end, but we're not really jumping to the end. Because this was the very first things we saw of the movie. That it was all Red Hulk. And I will say, it was not the last 5 minutes like people were saying, but it was like 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah. No, it was the last 10 minutes, like you said. It was very much advertised, agreed, on the Isaiah prequel movie project.
Here's an idea. Just de-age scenes in this movie.
Yeah, that's
start the movie in 1961 in Korea.
Yeah. I thought, obviously, very big marketing ploy to get, Red Hulk out there, Captain America versus Red Hulk. It's the fight everybody wants to see. And it was the last 10 minutes. I thought maybe if they could have done something, maybe they switch it up where it's like, oh, this has happened before or something. And
what do you mean by that?
You find a different way where it's not the first time he's hulked out. This isn't like a surprise to everybody. Maybe it's like something where it's like, oh, it's happened, but it hasn't happened in a few years. Trying to keep it under, we've got it under control. And I know this is kind of reworking obviously the whole movie. What do we do?
It's already better than what we got.
Yeah, but just like, can we rework it somewhere where we get a little bit more Red Hulk? And what do we do? And I'm trying to think, what do we do with the leader? Because again, it was so apparent to me. I could be wrong. Maybe it just didn't look good, but there was just never a moment where I was like, I don't think Tim Blake Nelson is in the same room as anybody in this movie. Like he's clearly, it looks like he's just pasted in there with his weird kind of the makeup thing they got going on, which I did not think that looked good either. I thought obviously it's supposed to be a little off-putting, but it didn't look good. And I was watching the Geek Buddies review the other day, and they were talking about the Funko Pop that was released. That was like, it's a completely different like look than not even that, not even like the big forehead. He's just green. The Funko
That's
Pop.
him.
And
no, it's this. This is the real one.
Yeah,
that's what the original look was that they filmed.
Not what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah, that's what they filmed originally.
Oh, is it?
That's what the Funko Pop looks like.
No, the Funko Pop is just green.
No, he does have a big forehead.
Okay.
It's not very big, but he does have a big
I don't know
one.
why they changed it, but I think maybe that would have been a better version.
Can I jump in here real quick on the leader's head? First of all, spoiler alert. I thought it was pretty crazy that they just like blew this guy up. Torres gets blasted out of the sky.
Oh.
You just said, who even is that? I mean, do we need to even keep talking? You just said, who even is that? No, but they blasted him out of the sky, and it's like, this isn't Rhodey. We knew Rhodey for like 10. And granted, Rhodey gets fully paralyzed and said it's way worse of a situation. Joaquin just like is in a hospital bed for a few days. But just the fact that like they want us to care that much about it, or just expect us to care that fast about it, I thought was pretty crazy. But to the leader's head of it all, I mean, I'm just doing mental math here, but what is the two huge changes from what we knew this movie was originally going to be? I guess the three. The character of Ruth, it was gutted, obviously.
Oh, clearly.
I mean, she shows up.
Why is she even on the poster?
First, she shows up in a suit. Yeah. Then she shows up with a little sports jacket with blue lines on it. Then she shows up on the ship with a full superhero outfit underneath the jacket that is never addressed and never comes up ever again. And she does nothing with it or anything. Second thing, obviously, Sidewinder, which we've talked a lot about already. And then the third is the leader, is the change in how he looked and everything. I think that just with the big head and everything else with the leader, when we heard all those stories of, oh, the test screenings did not go well,
Mhm.
I have no other choice than to think that it was all to do with the leader. I think they thought maybe whatever they had, they were like, this guy comes off goofy. And that's why they were like, let's do the other leader design. Let's go. Because the leader has two very famous looks in the comics, and that's regular guy with a big ass head with a goatee, or nasty, somebody called him Uncle Piccolo, like nasty,
Piccolo.
blobulous head.
Yeah.
And that's what they switched it to. And I know, and I don't like when people do that, when they're like put their own stuff on it, but it's like 1 + 1 is 2 in this situation.
Right.
All of Tim Blake Nelson's stuff is completely redone. And as you've said, I don't think there's a single scene where he is with any other principal actor in this movie.
No. Yeah.
I don't think there is at all. But sorry, go ahead.
And just real quick, even like changing, like you said, changing all that stuff, that doesn't help that his dialogue just doesn't give you anything. It's just him like talking in a lower kind of tone voice the entire time. And
it's literally, I used to make fun of it in the trailer. It's the line in the trailer, his one line in all the trailers, Captain America. Didn't you ever wonder who was pulling all the strings? That's his entire character. I saw it in the probability. Oh my God. If we can, I just want to jump to the post-credit scene too.
Well, real quick,
okay,
just one thing real quick. I just want to bring up on the leader. And now you talking about all the reshoots maybe kind of changes my mind, not changes my mind, but answers one of my questions.
Yeah.
So he shows up two places as well, where I'm kind of like, what? So the one where he shows up on the training ground.
Oh,
I'm like, how the fuck did you get here? Like, where did you come from?
How about I'll do you better than this? Where is this?
What exactly?
Any sense of is this in Kuwait? Is this in Virginia? Is it, I'd assume it's in Virginia. I'd assume that it's close by.
Close, right.
But how does he get, they say that Camp Echo 1, which by the way, like I texted you, I said Ross is the Wong of phase, what are we in, phase 5? If Wong was the Wong of phase 4, Ross is the Wong of phase 5, because Camp Echo 1 is the base in X-Men 97 when Rogue goes there and threatens Ross. When Ross is in X-Men 97, that's also Camp Echo 1, which I thought was cool. I'd never even heard of Camp Echo 1 until X-Men 97. And then that was a moment where I was like, oh, this is like the same place. So I like that. But how did he get from Camp Echo 1, which is in the middle of Utah,
nowhere,
then to wherever this nebulous training zone is, then to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C.? How did he get there in the same 6 hour span from when Sam and Joaquin went to the Indian Ocean?
Yeah.
And don't forget the timing in this movie?
The other thing with the leader I wanted to bring up is when he breaks into that house and he kills the general and the admiral. So do you think there was something more there?
I think it was just, no, I don't think there was something more. I think it was just,
that made no sense to me.
Well, it made no sense to me until I saw somebody say something, which I'll say in a second, which you'll go, okay. But it's not set up. It's not even discussed. An admiral's private home always has a direct line to the president. And that's the only reason.
But he's talked to him. He's talked to him without that. I would think. I think he has. I think they see it. I think at some point in the movie he talks to him without that.
Well, because I'm trying to think, when he calls from the admiral's house.
Yeah.
He has. No, you're absolutely right. Doesn't he? I think maybe an hour earlier in the movie he just calls Ross on the cell phone.
Yeah.
I think like an hour earlier he just calls him up
because he does all the, like, he knocks on the door and goes, oh hell,
maybe he had Admiral. To get maybe the admiral had the direct line to the ship, maybe that's what it was.
He kills his wife, I think, and then he kills him,
and
then he's talking to him at the house, and I'm like, why are we at this house? Like,
you know what I thought it was going to be? I thought I had a moment of false security because I was like, I thought that maybe this was like Betty's husband. And that's
I thought it was Betty.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought we were going there. And I was like, oh, this is
Right.
how they're using Liv Tyler. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't that.
No.
And I was like, okay, that's it.
Okay. Next, we got to move off the leader because we've been talking about him for a while.
Yeah. To be fair, he is supposedly the villain of the movie. Betty Ross. That's right. Danielle said quote Betty Ross. Real. Let's talk about Anthony Mackie. Let's talk. What did you feel about how this movie exists alongside Falcon and Winter Soldier? Like, do you think, I've thought about this a lot and I've talked about it to people a lot. I think we are in such a different place with this movie if this is Captain America 5 and John Walker was the villain in Captain America 4. You know what I mean? Like, I think making Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we kind of talked about it on the show with Danielle last week about how the kind of, this story is a movie, this story is a show, this story is a movie, this story is a show. That line that I'm bouncing between is the audience of the MCU putting that story, which, like we said, I think we both enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think it's a great story that was written for 10 episodes, squeezed into 6. And plus a pandemic, and you just see the lines everywhere of, like, you know, where they kind of condense the story. I think if you made Falcon and Winter Soldier Captain America 4, and you had that movie 3 years ago, and now Sam's second movie, which has a lot less pressure on it, can be a story about Red Hulk. You know what I mean? But it's, and I throw it back to what Shelley said, which I made the joke about, like, it would be like having Stryker be the villain, but she made a really good point, which was, we're dealing with all of this Incredible Hulk stuff, but we're also trying to live in this new Team Cap. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not Bucky, Sam, and Steve anymore. It's Sam, Joaquin, and Ruth, maybe, but it's definitely Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah. Like, that's our trio in this movie. And I think if you had that trio in this movie and the villain was just Ross, and they went, guess what? Don't even put the leader in the, and again, I'm doing, you know, like we said earlier, like the coulda, woulda, shoulda, like, it's not, you know, just saying what you wish happened. But in this case, it's like, man, I defend the MCU like no other. And it's like, I cannot defend the story of this movie, let alone the plot. And I still want to circle over to just, it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel like we're in the MCU in a couple of very specific ways that really kind of bugged me the more I think about the movie. But really the core failing is just, this movie should have been pure and simple. Somehow you got to still make it work that Isaiah gets framed for trying to kill Ross. Maybe just straight up frame him, and, you know, Isaiah wasn't even there at all. But that is your through line. That is the lifeblood of this movie. And the fact that you cut back to Isaiah in prison like 2 or 3 times at the beginning and then once or twice at the end, and there's like an hour in the middle of the movie where Isaiah as a character is just gone. And it's like, what is going on? Like, don't put Ruth on the ship. Keep Ruth with Isaiah. Do a storyline where Ruth breaks Isaiah out. And she's like, you're not safe in that prison. You're going to stay with me until we can sort all this out. And then you have a nice interplay where maybe Ruth and Isaiah are investigating the pills instead of, hey, I got some pills. Can you take a look? Of course I can. I got those pills looked at. Well, great. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, great.
Ruth, a character who is doing nothing in that battle sequence, could have been somebody that we cut back to. And I think another positive of this movie is the battle sequence. I think the Indian Ocean fight, I thought, was fantastic. I think having Tiamat be like the backdrop for it was like had no consequence at all.
Mhm.
Like it could have just been Niagara Falls that they were fighting
Yeah.
over. You know what I mean? They could have said, we found adamantium in Niagara Falls, and the fight would have been exactly the same. Like there was nothing special about it being the Celestial. There's one moment where Sam like hides on one of the fingers, which was like a cool moment, but it was one moment in like a 10-minute sequence.
Yeah.
I just think you could have done so much more, even with just the elements that you did have. You know what I mean? That I think they just blew it on so many fronts. And then I guess I'll just launch into this because this is the last kind of piece that I really want to hit on, and then wherever you want to go.
Mhm.
Little things like why, and I know this was brought up on the Geek Buddies that I didn't even think about, but it goes into that kind of like why is he using a Surface Duo when this is a world that has been and I know that this is like nitpicky stuff, but
Yeah.
these movies are like if they, and I only say this because they did this when Captain Marvel came out. There's a new space movie. Well, guess what? A lot of the tech, a lot of the feel of it matches what's in Guardians
Mhm.
because it's the same world, because it is the same tech. You know what I mean? Like Carol
Right.
Danvers isn't like operating her ship with like goop. You know what I mean? You know where it is in Quantumania.
Yeah.
Like that made sense in Quantumania. We're in the quantum realm. The technology's totally different because the quantum realm is this totally different place, nothing like what we're used to. And so that's on like a space side of it. You're talking about cell phones and like the tech that's available to the Avengers are hologramming each other all the time from across the universe. And you're telling me that like the president in a life-threatening situation, all he has is just the regular situation room with a fucking Zoom on like a Roku TV? You know what I mean? Like think back to the World Security Council in the first Avengers on the helicarrier. They're all in
Mhm.
shadow and the TVs are flipped, you know, vertical. And it's cool like that. Then think of the World Security Council and Winter Soldier. They're all in those hologram
Hologram,
tubes.
yeah.
Like why would the Japanese, I like am at a loss. Like I
Yeah.
don't understand, because a bad script is a bad script. There's no touching that. There's no whatever. Being like, hey, wasn't it Infinity War that Ross exclusively appeared as a hologram?
Hologram, yeah.
And that he was like the whole room he was in was there
Mhm.
talking to Rhodey, and then Rhodey swiped away the entire room with him? Wouldn't that same guy maybe use holograms to communicate once he becomes the president?
Mhm.
Oh no, we're just gonna hook up a TCL Roku TV and then slap the big ass Zoom logo on the corner. It's stuff like that that is just, that's the stuff that makes me go, oh man, like are we like really taking our eye off the ball here at
Mhm.
Marvel? Like that's the kind of stuff that makes, like, because like I said, a bad script is a bad script, and I know I'm repeating myself. Please stop me if I am too much. A bad script is a bad script. That will happen to like any movie. Something like that where you're like, it's just that it doesn't even match up to the universe. Like it almost breaks my brain. Like Kamala
Yeah.
Khan in the Marvels has one of the Nick Fury swipey iPads and stuff. There is a orbital space station called Saber
Mhm.
that people go in a space elevator up and down from New York City.
Yeah.
And granted, when I say people, it's like people with high clearance in the government. This is the US president. He is in charge of Sword. He is in charge of Saber. He is in charge of Nick Fury. Why would he be talking through a Zoom call? And I know that's like so stupid, but it really does make me worried about, like, are we even paying attention anymore to like the fabric of what this universe is? Like, because it really just felt like you said, to the movie. Honestly, this movie to me, and I get it that you run out of money and you can't film anymore, and that's it. And when you get cut off, you just have to work with what you have. But like, this movie just felt like no one was paying attention, like on a macro level. They were just
Mhm.
like, "Did you film it? Did you film the scene? Yeah, well, we need a situation room. Well, wouldn't it be kind of in the MCU? Wouldn't it be like a huge bright room with like holograms and like these huge like TV screens? And Ruth would have like a big tablet that she's like swiping, like the Stark tech where you're like moving stuff with your
Yeah.
hands and everything." And they just went, "No, we'll just put it in the regular situation room. We'll just put it in a basement." And then, to quote the Geek Buddies exactly, your Hulk protocol is to shoot him with a pistol. You don't have giant things that jump out of the lawn and go with the sound waves that we've known for 20 years work on Hulks. That you saw it in Incredible Hulk, you saw it in Age of Ultron, you saw it in She-Hulk, just as recent as She-Hulk. You're telling me that damage control didn't pimp out the White House? Like, stuff like that just makes no sense to me. And like, the more I think about it, it's the first time that I'm like, man, this is like a Fox X-Men level of, how does this even make sense coming after the last movie? I mean, just look at the tech that Ritson had.
All right,
in
I'm gonna
Secret
cut you
Invasion.
off.
Go. Okay.
You've been I'm not just gonna say it. So the Zoom logo, I didn't even notice that. I will say that tracks what you're saying is,
Yeah.
We've shown these cool kind of pieces of technology before. And to not keep it consistent, I thought now that you're kind of mentioning that, it does seem very odd, because it's not like it wasn't something that hasn't been established before. We've seen it multiple times before, and it's, we've seen this technology. I thought the movie, I think the movie thrived when it was Sam, Joaquin, and Isaiah kind of bantering back and forth. Unfortunately, there was very little of that. But like locking up Isaiah Bradley for, half of the movie, maybe probably more.
Yeah.
I thought was just so stupid. It's like, people that have saw Falcon Winter Soldier, saw that story, and they had really good chemistry in that show, and it was obviously brought over to this movie. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to lean into that. I don't know how you get
Literally.
him. You don't put him in prison in the first place. I guess what you said. Maybe have Ruth kind of take him with her, on this journey, and that way we get more of that back and forth between him and Sam.
Yeah. And a new dynamic with him and Ruth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought Ruth as a character, obviously, like you said, was clearly kind of chopped up where she was supposed to have a bigger role. They obviously mentioned she's a Black Widow, formerly, and then I might have walked out to go to the bathroom at the moment she kind of beats up those guys in the tunnel. So I actually didn't see her be a Black Widow, but I know they mentioned it and it said that that's what she was. And I think that's the last time you see anything like that.
That is her only action in the entire movie. She does the Black Widow leg hold.
Right. So clearly obviously her kind of role was cut down severely. Bringing it back to Sidewinder again, like I said, I don't really know why. Giancarlo Esposito, you want to have him as Sidewinder is great, but you got to give him something to do. Like don't just have him come in at the beginning and then have him kind of come back midway through the movie to give you this big exposition dump on why Ross is doing what he's doing and what the leader has on him and all this other stuff.
People keep saying that they added it because they thought the villain was that they added him because they thought the villain was weak.
Yeah.
Maybe they did, but they didn't go, we need Giancarlo Esposito. They said, we need a character who can tell Sam everything Sam needs to know.
Right.
And then work their way back. Because the only reason Sidewinder is in this movie is for the scene where he goes, I'll tell you everything for a reduced sentence.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, "Blah." And he goes, "This is what happened to the Incredible Hulk. I'm the one who caught Stearns. After that, we took him to a black site prison. After that,
Right.
he was helping Ross for 10 years. How do you think
Right.
Ross became president?" It's literally just 5 minutes of just him info dumping on him. And like half of it doesn't even make sense.
So again, I kind of wish they could have, get rid of the whole exposition thing and then just don't even bring him into it. If you're not going to give him something to do or, give Giancarlo Esposito a good script to read off of, like, don't even bother. Just make it some random character or something, or just get rid of him completely. And, we don't even need him.
Or here's an idea: make him like a super important person in the government who can just do a walk and talk with Sam. Like, why did he even need to be tied into the Serpent Society? Like, he could have gotten this information by just being like, I have a few old SHIELD contacts, the good kind,
Right.
and then just he calls up Giancarlo and he's like, and it's a totally different vibe. You don't even need to add 10. Although I like the action sequence in the junkyard.
No,
like,
I thought the fight
kick.
scenes were good,
Yeah.
but that's all that we really got from that character.
And again, what do we hear is that they take the action out of the hands of the director. So it's like, to me, the best parts of this movie were the action and were the fight scenes. It was all the other stuff that not so much.
I think kind of I'm surprised they didn't use Liv Tyler more. I thought, especially on the phone call too, I thought maybe they would have turned that into like her coming into the scene instead of him calling her. And again, I think what you said, where when he broke into the house, I immediately thought, I was like, oh, that's probably Betty's house. And it obviously wasn't, but I was like, wouldn't that be an interesting?
I thought we were going to get a Ty Burrell cameo.
Yeah, maybe you, instead of giving him obviously you can still do the pills thing or you do something different, but maybe that's when he rages out, instead of having him, basically I'm pretty sure he just gets angry because he's getting asked questions, and that and that's why he hulks out, which is like, what? It's like if that happened every day, this would have happened a long time ago. How did this not happen before? Actually, that's a really good question because I'm sure he's gotten harder questions before this day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it all just never really came together. During the movie, I was like, Joaquin Torres. I kept thinking, I was like, can somebody get this guy? Like, I know it was kind of like a joke, like, oh, you got to earn the wings and stuff like that. But it's like, can you just get him a suit that looks good? Because he's just wearing some like gray like thing that just is not appealing.
It's green.
Eyes.
It's green.
It's gray. Okay. Like, can we get some color? Like something, like just something to make him stand out a little bit more. And did you know that Copperhead was in this movie?
Oh, I did. He was in it for what was it? 2 seconds?
Yeah. I didn't know that. I saw on IMDb. I was like, oh, who's Copperhead? And I saw he's actually like a legitimate villain. And I was like, if he would have looked like that, okay, like if he did look like that, if that was the original, then I'd be like, okay, maybe you change it, but I don't think you change it to what they changed it to.
Man, that's crazy, dude. That is crazy. All right, we have well, we should probably actually wrap up because I gotta go to the mechanic. But yeah, any last, I'll throw it over to you because that just the more I think about it, the more that tech stuff like kills me. But yeah, anything that we missed here, I agree 100% on the Isaiah stuff. I was still in the mode of what are people talking about with this movie when he gets arrested and he goes, I can't go back, Sam. Yeah. And then they put him on the ground and he's just screaming, my suit,
my suit,
Sam, my suit, my suit. And I'm not even thinking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm just thinking about the scene in the limo just a couple minutes ago when they're talking about the suit. And he's like, yeah, well, he's like, my wife, last time I wore this was last time I was with my wife. And it's like, man, that stuff was like so emotional. Like I was almost ready to cry just in that moment when he was getting arrested, when he goes to Sam and says, I can't go back. That
Mhm.
was like, oh my God. And the look on Mackie's face where he's just like, what does he say? He's like, if you run, it'll be so much worse. And
Mhm.
it's like that. I mean, people knock this scene because they're like, people say, and it's not my experience, so I really can't say, but the scene where the cops like kind of rough up Sam in Falcon and Winter Soldier when they're
Mhm.
like, hey, you got a license or something? And Bucky's like, do you like have any
Oh, we
idea
didn't
who
even
this is?
mention Sebastian
Yeah,
Stan.
but yeah, well, do we
Yeah.
need to? I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean, he had the best line in the movie.
which was
He said, Steve was somebody that they could look up, or what was
Steve
that?
was somebody who inspired
Fired
people.
them.
You're
Yeah.
somebody that people can aspire to be.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they really put a nail on that when Joaquin at the end of the movie went, I aspired to be
Right.
you,
But that's
Sam.
the whole thing. That's the whole thing with Sam, though. It's like, obviously it's mentioned a few times where it's like, I should have taken this. I should have taken this serum. Like, this is such bullshit. It's so much harder. But it's like,
I also loved
people
his
look at,
line in the beginning, instead of I can do this all day, he said, I got shit to do today.
yeah.
that was funny.
But it's with that though, it's like, yeah, but people can look at you and be like, I could be that. I could be a hero too. Kind of
Yeah.
like, where it's like, I think it's like Spider-Man, where it's like,
Anyone
anybody
could
can
wear
wear
the
the
mask.
mask.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, with Steve and Bucky, it's like, well, they have this super serum that makes them, it's okay, stop showing me that picture, that makes them like strong and all
Yeah.
this other stuff. And so I thought that was a really good kind of line that was in there,
Back
and a
and
good
forth,
thread
yeah.
I feel like they carried kind of throughout the movie. I hope granted, it would be, does get roughed up. I feel like he's one of the people that's gotten roughed up the most. I feel like
Sam?
I've seen in recent memory.
Oh, yeah.
In a movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but that's the other thing, and this I really do have to go. But the last thing I'll say is we've said all along the action was great. The final finisher in the Hulk fight when he when he sees the dart in him and he takes the wing that has now, when he rips the other wing off, that energy. So now this one wing has like double energy in it, and when he like knifes it right in there, and then it explodes, and
I thought
they
he
both fly back
exploded into pieces.
So did I. So did I. I will say this, everyone, and I went to like the 4:00 show, so it wasn't the sold out like 7:00. It's probably about half full in the IMAX theater. Everybody went, oh. And to me, that's why it's still a 3 out of 5, because there are certain Marvel moments in this that were just done so well. Like whether it's the Indian Ocean battle, the finale to the Hulk fight, just some of the action with the Hulk, I thought it was like there's a really wide shot where it's like you see the tourists in Washington and they look up at the White House and he's just up there screaming. And it was like something out of a Godzilla movie. Like some of the stuff that they did with Red Hulk was really, really incredible. Just the entire rest of the movie was absolutely terrible. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. Anything left from you?
No, that said, I thought, obviously, unfortunately, it wasn't very good. But hopefully, with the next one, we'll be back.
One can hope. Quality. One can hope. Also, real quick to the whole thing of like, will there be a Cap 5? You know who else didn't have their own solo movie for 10 years?
Who?
Robert Downey Jr. The last Iron Man movie was in 2013.
Jeez.
All of his other appearances were in other people's movies. So
yeah,
I think if you want to say, hey, financially, another Cap movie just doesn't make sense for us right now, put that guy in every movie under the sun. Give me Tom Holland's Spider-Man 5 is a him and Cap team up. Put him and Mackie in their own movie together. But all right, guys, that will do it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this big, dare I say, ferocious Red Hulk sized episode of Planet Film Live. We talked Spider-Man, we talked Captain America, we talked a bunch of Daredevil, Dune, tons of other stuff. If you guys enjoyed this show, go ahead and share it down below with anyone that you think would enjoy the discussion, or anybody that you know that loves cool, geeky stuff. or just movies in general. That will do it for me. I have been one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I've been your other host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment below. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We will see you next time.